What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your MINI RF4 V2 4-pack. These lights come in both black or white, but the setup for each is the exact same. So when we take a look inside, you'll see we get 4 of the MINI RF4 V2 lights. You also get a charger for each light and 4 RF remotes to control the lights. Now inside the bag, you'll notice these removable Velcro dividers, which means you can take them out and customize how you want the bag set up. For most of the how-to, I'm going to be demoing just one of these lights, but keep in mind, you're gonna follow the same exact steps to set up the rest of the lights. So you'll notice the light has this built-in bracket here, and this allows us to angle the light into different positions, which is great for a wall washing effect. So you can angle the light any way you want and point it towards your wall to give it that wall washing effect. And there's also feet on the back of the light, so another way to wall wash is by placing it flush against the wall with the light shining upwards. Using the feet on the back, you can also place the light inside of a totem stand so you can have the totem illuminated. And another way we can set up our light is to a truss. If you take a look at the bracket here, you're gonna see this hole in the middle, and this is where we can set up a lighting clamp like our LC70 here. So to do that, I can take my lighting clamp and take this bolt out just like this. Then I'm gonna line this bolt up to this hole here on the bracket, line up my lighting clamp and screw it on. Then once you have the clamp attached, you can loosen up this knob here to open up the clamp. Then once there's enough room, you can line the clamp up to a spot on your truss where you want to hang your light, tighten up the knob to secure the light onto your truss, and then you're all set to use the light in your stage production. So let's get to know the light here. On the right of the display, we have the power button. So whenever you want to power on your light, you're just gonna click this button on. Then you have the display to let you know what mode the light is on. You also can tell if it's in master or slave mode. It's also gonna tell you which wireless group it's set to. And then we have the battery life indicator on the bottom. So looking at the battery life indicator, we see 3 bars. So if it's filled all the way up to the green, that means it has plenty of battery. If it's up to the orange, that means the battery is about at the midway point. And if it's only showing the red, that means it's low on battery. So we could use the charger to charge the light. So you can take your charger and plug it into the port here right underneath the power button. Underneath the display, we have the buttons to control the light. So going from left to right, we have the mode button, so we can cycle between the different modes available. Right next to that, we have the up button, so whichever mode you're set to, you can press this button to cycle up through the settings. And next to that, we have the down button, so we can cycle down the settings. And then at the very end, we have the enter button to go into a sub menu. So this could vary from mode to mode. For example, if we're on the color fade mode, we can press this button to enter the speed setting of that color fade. In the sound modes, we can press enter to adjust the sensitivity of the built-in microphone, and so on and so forth. So now that we know what the buttons do, let's go through each mode of the light and see what they do. So let's start with the RF mode, which may or may not be the default mode once you power on your light. But if you wanted to follow along, all you have to do is press the mode button until you see the display read RF1. So the RF mode allows you to set the lights into different RF groups, which is the technology that we use with the remote. There are 4 different RF modes to choose from. So we have RF1, RF2, RF3, and RF4. So if you wanted to control 3 of your lights at a time just by using your remote, you could set all of your lights to RF1. And when we press this button, you'll see this light here on the top of the remote light up. And this shows you which RF group is which if we follow along this guide here on the right of this button. So when this light lights up red, we'll know we're in RF group 1. If this light lights up green, we know that it's set to RF group 2. If it's yellow, we know that it's set to RF group 3. And if it's blue, we know it's set to RF group 4. There's also a 5th option, so this white color here allows us to control all of the lights at once, no matter which RF group the lights themselves are set up to. We're gonna dive deeper into this later on when we show off the remote, but for now, let's keep exploring the controls on the light. Another thing I want to point out in RF mode is if we press enter, then we can choose whether or not our light is set to master or slave mode. So if you want your light to work with the remote, you're gonna want to press enter to set this to slave mode. And if you wanted to close off the connection between the remote and the light, you can always set this to master mode. The next mode we have is the color mode, and this allows us to set the light to a custom color. So the way this works is if we press enter, it's gonna bring us to this R setting, and this allows us to adjust the red LEDs of the light. So for example, I'm gonna set this to 99 for the max red LED, and if I lower that, you're gonna see the red LED go down. So I have this at about 17% red, so I can cycle through the different colors by pressing enter. So the next one is green, and then I can adjust how much green I want to come out of the light. So this is the max amount of green, and we're gonna blend this into our red here. So now the green's at about 13%, so these are the two colors together. So I can keep on going. I can set how much blue I want to come out of the light. So this is what it looks like at about 30% with the other colors, and then I can keep going. I can add some white. I can add some yellow. I can also set some purple. And then after that, we cycle back to red in case we want to make some more adjustments. The next mode we have is the display mode, which controls the display on the screen. So we can press enter and adjust this to turn off after 30 seconds, 20 seconds, or 10 seconds. And then after that, we can just have the LED on at all times. The next mode we have is the wireless ID mode, and this allows us to set our light to a color-coded wireless ID, which comes in handy if we're trying to set up our light to a wireless DMX controller, or if we're trying to use the master slave feature with this light and a bunch of other lights we want set up in a wireless chain. Don't worry though, we're gonna be going over that later on as well. For now, just know that you can use the up and down buttons to cycle between the different wireless IDs. So we have number 1 as red, number 2 as green, 3 as yellow, 4 as blue, 5 as purple, 6 as cyan, and 7 is white. And then we can turn this mode off altogether. Next we have the master mode, so we can use the up and down buttons either to turn this on or turn this off. So if we want this light to act as the main light in our wireless chain, we're gonna want to set this to the on setting. Or if we want this to follow along with the master light, we're going to set this to the off setting. And then we can go to the next mode, which is the DMX address/slave mode. So if we're using the light with a wireless DMX controller, we can set the DMX address by using the up and down buttons. And this goes all the way up to 512, depending on the type of control you want over the light using your DMX controller. Pressing enter in this mode brings you to the DMX channel menu, where you can set it to either 6 or 10, and this allows you to basically choose how many faders you want to use with your DMX controller. 6 channel mode only allows you to control the color of the lights, while the 10 channel mode allows you to control the color, the overall brightness, and you can set the light into any of the available modes and control the speed of the modes. Next, we have the color mode to set our light to a static color and use the up and down buttons to determine which color it's set to. So we have 01 as red, then we have green, blue, white, etc. And there's about 32 colors you can choose from. And then once you have it set to the color that you want, you can press enter, and this brings us to the strobe menu. Then from here, we can use the up and down buttons to control how fast the strobe is. So this is at level 1 here for a slower strobe, and then the higher we go, the faster the strobe. Next, we have the jump mode, where the light will jump between each color, and we can use the up and down buttons to control the speed of the jump. So right now it's at the slowest setting, but the higher we go up, the faster the jump of the colors. Next, we have the fade mode, where the light will fade between each color, and there's actually 2 fade modes we can choose from. So we can use the up and down buttons to cycle between fade mode 1 and fade mode 2. Then we can press enter to adjust the speed of the fade. So it's about midway here, but again, the higher we go up, the faster the fade will be. Next, we have the sound mode where the light will change by the sound that's getting picked up. As you can see, because of my voice, it's changing colors right now. And we actually have 4 different sound modes to choose from. So this is sound mode 1. You can press the up button. For sound mode 2, so this is sound mode 2 right here. And then we have sound mode 3. And then sound mode 4. And when we press enter, we can adjust the sensitivity of the microphone that's picking up the sound. So if we want it to interact with the sound more easily, we can set this to the higher setting. So this is actually all the way up at 9, which is why the light is changing so quickly to my voice. And if we set it to 1, we have to be a bit louder so the light can change. And then we have the app group mode, so you can download the app for this light and control the light using the app. There's 4 different app modes we can choose from, so you can have different groups set up. And then if we press enter, we can see the code that we have to find in the Wi-Fi settings of our phone, so we can use our phone with the light. So we know what all of these buttons do to control the light, but we also have another way to control the light with a wireless DMX controller. So let me get that right now and show you how to set it up. So I have my DMX controller that I'm going to pair to my lights completely wirelessly. We're gonna do this by setting them all to the same wireless group ID. On the controller, we can do this by turning on the wireless DMX feature. And then right next to the switch, we have this button here, so we can set it to the desired wireless ID. There's many different groups to choose from, and they're color coded to make the pairing easier. So we have the option to set it to red, green, yellow, blue, purple, cyan, or white. For today, I'm gonna set it to red, and so now we have to do the exact same thing on the lights themselves. So to do this, we're gonna cycle through the modes of the light until we get to the wireless group ID mode. So when you're in this mode, you can use the up and down buttons to cycle through these different IDs. So we have the red, green, yellow, blue, purple, cyan, or white that we saw on the controller as well. So because we set the wireless ID to red on our controller, we're gonna wanna do the same thing on our lights here. So now that we have the wireless ID set, we're actually gonna go to the next mode here, which is the master mode, and we're gonna wanna make sure that that's set to off on both of our lights. And then we're gonna go to the next mode, which is the DMX address/slave mode. From here, we're gonna want to make sure that they're set to the same DMX address. So for today, let's use 001. And then after that, you'll see the wireless ID icon on each light start to flash, letting you know that it's synced up to your controller. We can also determine how much control we have over our lights using our controller by setting the lights to either 6-channel DMX mode or 10-channel DMX mode. We can do this by pressing enter on the slave mode here, and then we can use the up or down button to set it to 6 or 10. 6-channel mode only allows you to control the color of the lights, while the 10-channel mode allows you to control the color, the overall brightness, and you can set the light into any of the available modes and control the speed of the modes. For today, we're gonna set them to 10-channel mode for the most control. So now I can press scanner 1 on my controller, and now I can go through each fader and see what they do. So we have fader 1 that acts as the master dimmer, or how bright we want our lights to be. So we're gonna raise this all the way up for today, and then we can use faders 2 through 7 to adjust the color. So we have fader 2 as the red, fader 3 as green, fader 4 as blue, fader 5 as white, fader 6 as amber, and then fader 7 as ultraviolet. So we can blend these colors all together for a custom color, like this one here, and then we can use fader 8 to activate the strobe. So the higher I set this, the faster the strobe will go in this color. I'm gonna lower this color for now and use the page select button to use faders 9 and 10. I can use fader 9 to set the lights to different modes depending on the value or how high I set fader 9. And you can use the display on your controller here to see which value the fader is being set to. So for example, if I set this to value 50, this will activate the color jump mode. And as you can see right now, it's jumping pretty slow, so we can actually use fader 10 to adjust the speed. So it's all the way down now, so it's again pretty slow, but the more I raise it up, the faster the color jump. So another way we can control our lights without a DMX controller is by using the master slave function, where we select one light to be the master or main light in our chain, while the other lights follow as the slave or secondary lights. So for example, we're just gonna stick with these two lights here. I can choose which one I want to have as my master light. So I'm gonna go with this guy right here. So I'm actually gonna go to the master mode here on my light. So I'm gonna keep pressing the mode button until I see the master on or off menu. Then from here I can use the up or down button to select it to on. And just like we did with the DMX controller, I'm going to assign my lights to the same wireless ID group, which again is color coded, so I can use the up and down buttons to cycle between the different colors. So for today, let's just set it to the red ID. So we're all set with the master light for now. So I'm gonna go to the first slave light of my chain, and just like we did with the master light, I'm going to go to the wireless ID group menu and set it to the same wireless ID group, which again is the red one. Then I'm gonna make sure that the master mode in the next menu is turned off, just so the slave light doesn't get confused. And then I'm gonna go to the following menu so the light gets put into slave mode. After that, you should see the wireless ID icon start to flash, which means that it's successfully paired to the master light. So we just did this with one of our slave lights, but you're gonna follow the same exact steps if you wanted to set up more lights in your chain. So now we can go to the master light and set it to any mode or color, and then the slave light will follow. It also works with the mode, so I can go to the color jump mode, and then the slave light will do the color jump mode as well. Now another way to control our lights without a DMX controller is by setting them up to an RF group and using the wireless remote. So to do that, we're gonna go to the mode button on each light and press it until the display reads RF1. From here, we can choose an RF group to set our lights to. So we have 4 different options. We have RF1, RF2, RF3, RF4, and this all depends on how many groups that you want to have set up. So for now, let's just stick with one group and set it to RF1. Pressing the enter button on this mode sets it to either slave or master mode. So we want to set them both to slave mode so we can use the remote with the lights. But if we ever wanted to cut off that connection, we can set it to master mode. The next thing you're going to want to do is set the remote to the same RF group. And you're going to do that by looking for the RF group button here on the remote. And if you press this button, you're gonna see the light on top of the remote flash 2 different colors, and this corresponds with this chart here right next to the RF group button. So when this light flashes red, this means that the remote is set to RF group 1. If it's going to green, then that's RF group 2, yellow is RF group 3, and blue is RF group 4. So because we have our light set to RF group 1, we're going to set it to RF1 on our remote. And now if I press a button here, you're gonna see that the lights start to follow with my remote. So another thing I want to show you with these additional lights here is how we can set up different RF groups to have them work independently from each other. So to do that, similar to our first group, we can go to the new lights and set them to a different RF group in that same menu. So we're gonna go to the RF display and use the up and down buttons to select a different RF group. So for today, let's stick with RF group 2. Make sure they're in slave mode by pressing enter. Then on our remote, we can press the RF group button until the top light flashes green, letting us know the remote is set to RF2. And now if we use our remote, you'll see that we can set the color for our new group of lights working independently from our first group. So if we wanted to make an adjustment on the first group of lights, we can press the RF group button until it flashes red. and switch it to a different mode or color. If we wanted to make an edit on our second group, we can press the RF group button until it flashes green and set it to a new mode or color. And there's actually a fifth option to control all of our lights, no matter which RF group they're set to, by going to the RF group button and clicking it until we see the white light shine on the top of the remote. And now if I click on a mode here on my remote, you're gonna see that both groups will follow. This comes in handy if you start with two separate groups that are two different colors or two different modes, and you get a request to set each group to the same color or mode. All you gotta do is set the RF group to all, and then you can just control them all at the same time. So let's actually break down what each control does here on the remote, starting with the RF group like we went over when setting up the RF groups on our lights. This will allow you to set the remote to the same RF group that your lights are set to, and you have 4 different options of the RF group 1, which is red, RF group 2, which is green, RF group 3, which is yellow, RF group 4, which is blue. And when you click on this RF group, you're gonna see the light on top of the remote flash to that corresponding color. So when it flashes to red, that's set to RF group 1, green for 2, yellow for 3, blue for 4, and then white to control all of the RF groups. You can turn off or turn on the LEDs with the on and off button here. This won't turn the light itself off. You have to do that with the power switch on each light, but you can turn on the LEDs just like that, or you can turn them off just like that. Next, we have some color options here. So we have red, green, blue, etc. If you look closely, you'll see these options are color wheels. So we can actually use this up and down button here to cycle through each option of each color. So for example, we're in the blue mode right now, but if I wanted it to be a lighter shade, I can press the up button. So now we're in a lighter shade of blue here. Then I can make it even lighter by pressing the button again. And then once more for the lightest option in this blue mode. And then I can set it back to the darkest mode here by pressing the button again. We can also adjust the brightness with these buttons here. So I can make it more dim like that, or I can make it brighter like that. Next, we have the 4 sound modes here. So we can set our lights to either sound mode 1, sound mode 2, sound mode 3, or sound mode 4. Below that, we have the sensitivity control, so we can control how the lights interact with the sound being picked up. If we want it to be less sensitive, we're gonna press the minus button. And if we want it to be more sensitive, we can press the plus button. At the bottom, we have the different modes. So we have strobe mode, we have pulse mode, we have fade mode, and then we have a color cycle mode. And then right above, we have a speed button to control the speed of these modes. So in the color cycle mode here, I can make the color cycle faster by pressing the up arrow, and I can also make the color cycle slower by pressing the down arrow. Now, another way we can control our mini series of lights is by using the app. It's available for both iOS or Android. Today, we're gonna be looking at the Android version, and if you haven't done so already, you can download it from our support site or look for it in the Google Play Store. If you're looking for it on the Google Play Store, you're just gonna look up Rockville DJ Link. After you've downloaded the app, you can now link your Android to your light. So let's go over how to do that next. The first thing we're gonna do is go to the light itself and press the mode button until we get to the app mode. Next, we're gonna press enter on this mode, and you're gonna see this unique code here. This code is unique to every light, so it may be different depending on the light you have, but on my screen here, it says E32. So when we look on the Wi-Fi networks, we're gonna see Rockville E32, so that's the match to the light. So we're gonna click on that to pair the phone to the light. If this notification shows up, you're just gonna click on Always Connect, and then we can click on Enter again to get back to the regular app mode, and we can go ahead and open the app on our phone. So when you open up the app, this is gonna be the first screen you see. We're gonna go over all of the different features and stuff, but for now I wanna shift our attention to the bottom where you see all these different groups. On the light itself, we can cycle through the app mode to choose one of these 4 groups. So I can use the up and down buttons to toggle through. So for today, we're gonna just stick with app mode 1. So now that we have this light set to app group 1, we're gonna go back to our app and select app group 1 to control the light from our phone. And now on the app, if I select a color, you'll see that the light will follow. So now let's explore the app here. So this first page is the color page where we can set the light to any standard color like this. We have the color wheel on top to set the light to a custom color. So I can drag along the color wheel and select any color. And then we can adjust the brightness of the light using this bar here in the middle. So I can lower it to make it less bright. And then I can raise it again to make it more bright. Now let's go to the next screen here. So we have the mode screen. You can set the light to a standard color on top. And then below we have all of these presets to set our light to a different mode. So we have the RGB cycle here. We have a color cycle. We have a RGB fade, and then so on and so forth. You can also adjust the speed of each of these modes by going to the speed bar here. So if I lower the speed for this RGB fade mode, you'll see that it fades a bit slower, and I can raise it to speed it back up. And then again, we can also adjust the brightness, so we can lower it or we can raise it back up. Let's move on to the next window here for the sound mode. We can set our light to one of the 4 sound modes here. So I can click on sound 1. And now as I'm making sound, you can see that the light is starting to change. You can also control how the light reacts to sound by using the sensitivity bar here. So if you want your light to react easily, you can leave it at 100%. Or if you only want the light to react to louder sounds, you can lower the sensitivity here. And now I have to be a bit louder in order for the light to change. There's another brightness bar on top here to adjust the brightness for the light. And then we have the settings window at the end to change the language on the app. You can also clear the cache, or you can find out more about the light through this About menu here. We have the option to control multiple lights through the app, but first we have to go through a few steps. First off, you don't have to link the second light through the Wi-Fi settings of your phone, since we already did that with the first light. Instead, we're gonna go through these next steps in order to link the lights together. The first thing we're gonna do is set both of our lights to the same wireless DMX code. To do that, we're gonna press the mode button on both lights until we get to the wireless DMX code menu. From here, we can use the up and down buttons to cycle through the different codes. And for today, we're gonna set it to 4 for the blue code. Next thing we're gonna do on both lights is set them to the master mode. This is an important step right here. So you're gonna go to the first light that you set up through your phone, and you're gonna make sure that the master mode is turned on for this light. And then on the second light or the other lights that you want set up, you're gonna make sure that the master mode is turned off. So again, with the light that you connected to the phone, you want the master mode on, and then on the second light and the rest of your lights, you want the master mode off. So now from here, we can select which app group we want our lights to interact with. So for example, if we want our lights set to app group 1, we're gonna go back to the app group mode on both lights. Make sure they're both set to app group 1. We're gonna leave the first light alone after that, but then on the second light, we're gonna switch it back to the DMX address or slave mode. One thing to keep in mind is when you keep cycling through the different modes on your main light, it may disconnect from your phone, so just be sure to check the network settings every now and again and make sure that you're linked to the light. So now with both lights set to app group 1, I can select group 1 on the app. And now if I set my light to a mode or a color, you'll see that both lights follow. So remember, we can have 4 separate groups of lights going at the same time. So let me show you how to do that next. So for this demo, we're gonna keep our first light to app group 1, and we're gonna change our second light to app group 2. So to do that, we're gonna go to our second light and go to the app group mode. Use the up or down button to cycle to app group 2. Make sure both lights are still set to the same wireless group ID. Make sure the master mode is still turned off on the second light, and then set the second light back to DMX address or slave mode. So now to make adjustments on lights set to app group 2, we can press group 2 on the app, set it to a different mode or color, and then you'll see it come up on the light. So now I want to show you guys how you can use all 4 groups using the lights from your MINI RF4 V2 4-pack. So just as a recap, you can go to the first light in your setup, so this light right here. Go to the app mode on that light, press the enter button to see the code that you're gonna look for in the Wi-Fi settings in order to pair our phone to the light. The next thing we're gonna do is set all of our lights to the same DMX code. So for today, we're gonna set them all to 4, or the blue code. Then we're gonna go to the master mode on all 4 of our lights. We're gonna turn it on for the first light only, and then on the remaining lights, we're gonna set it off. We're then gonna go back to the app group mode on all 4 of our lights. From here, we can go to the app group mode on each light and choose which group to assign them to. I'm gonna set this first light to app group 1. I'm gonna set this light to app group 2, this light to app group 3, and this light to app group 4. From here, we're gonna leave the first light alone, and then on the remaining 3 lights, we're gonna set them to the DMX address or slave mode. So I can go to app group 1 and set it to a solid color like that. I can then select app group 2 and set it to a new color. Then I'm gonna select app group 3 and I'm gonna set it to a mode this time. So I'm gonna choose blue pulse. And then I can select group 4 and set it to one of the sound modes. Now another really cool thing, we can select all 4 groups at the same time and set them to the same mode or color, just like that. That's how easy it is to use the RF remote with your MINI RF4 V2 4-pack. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.